When you're sick, every minute counts. So don't go anywhere. Go to dispatchhealth.com where high-quality medical care comes directly to you. No getting out of a sick bed. No crazy driving to an emergency room. No endless paperwork. No hospital waiting rooms. Visit dispatchhealth.com to learn about our medical professionals, then make house calls. Dispatch Health is covered by Medicare and most major insurance. Go to dispatchhealth.com.
Oh my god, it's MuggleCast! Episode 33 for April 2nd, 2006. See why GoDaddy.com is the #1 domain registrar worldwide. Now, with your domain name registration, you get hosting, a free blog, complete email, and much more. Plus, as a MuggleCast listener, enter code RON, that's R-O-N, when you check out, and get your .com domain name for just $6.95 a year. Get your piece of the internet today at GoDaddy.com. At USA Network, characters are welcome, and even you have what it takes to be a star. Can you believe that? Enter the 2006 Show Us Your Character contest to find out if you're America's most unique character, and you could win a chance to be featured on the computer screen, the TV screen, and even the big screen. Enter now at showusyourcharacter.com. Hello everyone, and welcome to MuggleCast 33. I'm Andrew Sims.
I am Ben Shane.
I'm Eric Skull.
I'm Jamie Lawrence.
I'm Greg Porter.
Wait, Greg Porter? Any relation to MuggleNet, Greg?
Maybe.
Yes or no? Just yes or no?
Yeah.
Oh,
the real
John Noe. Love to be on this episode. And America's favorite Brit, Jamie Lawrence, is also back, too. It's about time, Jamie.
I know, it's terrible, isn't it? It's a bad effort.
Before we go anywhere else, first let's check in with Micah Tannenbaum for the past week's top Harry Potter news stories.
IvanaLynch.net, a fan site for the actress who will be portraying Luna Lovegood in Order of the Phoenix, has debunked recent rumors of Ivana dropping out of the fifth film. Although the rumors suggest her agent made the departure statement, IvanaLynch.net makes a point of reminding visitors that Ivana doesn't even have an agent. Ivana will be in Order of the Phoenix, due out sometime next year. Wednesday morning, the Australian show Sunrise aired an interview with Dan, Rupert, Emma, and Katie on the set of the fifth Harry Potter movie, where they talked quite a lot about filming. And thanks to ExpectoPatronum.com, you can see more photos of Hagrid's hut. I know you've been waiting for those. If you weren't excited enough by the first set, there's now a scarecrow with a pumpkin for a head standing in the vegetable patch. Wow. As we reported a few weeks ago, Harry Potter was nominated for both Favorite Book for the entire series and Favorite Movie for Goblet of Fire at the 2006 Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards. The series and the movie proved successful, nabbing both the awards. At Wednesday night's British Book Awards ceremony in London, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince was named Book of the Year. The awards are voted on by the public, enrolling beat-out autobiographies by the likes of John Peel and Sharon Osbourne. The fourth Harry Potter DVD has proved enormously successful in the UK, where it now holds the title of the fastest-selling DVD ever. Every second on the day of its release on March 20th, 6 copies fell into eager fans' hands, and 3 copies per second were sold in the first 6 days since the movie hit store shelves. To date, 1.4 million copies have been sold, making it the 7th best-selling DVD of all time. Rupert Grint, along with the Phelps twins, were at the Harry Potter movie marathon in Rome's Warner Village. The marathon included screenings of the first 3 Harry Potter movies, and the actors signed autographs between the breaks. JKR recently painted a ceramic egg and donated it to an auction organized by Make Your Mark, an aid of the Multiple Sclerosis Society in Scotland. The egg raised £2,600, and a total of almost £30,000 was raised at the event. Finally, J.K. Rowling has opened the door on her website to give us a test. Not quite sure what all this wombat stuff means, but I am sure we'll find out more in the upcoming week. Be sure to tune in to MuggleCast next week, as the crew will be discussing JKR's latest surprise. And before I wrap things up, Emerson and Melissa, I want that toaster back I sent you guys as a wedding gift. That's all the news for this April 2nd, 2006 edition of MuggleCast. Back to the show.
Alright, thank you, Micah. Now a couple quick announcements. The shortest MuggleCast t-shirt ad ever. Buy a MuggleCast t-shirt today. Moving on. Vote for us on Podcast Alley. I'm not complaining much because we're in the top 10 list now.
Even shorter,
don't forget,
brilliant.
Thank you for all your emails. We're taking your feedback and putting it to good use. And it's time to put in your RSVPs for Lumos 2006.
Email HPLive, hplive@gmail.com.
At gmail.com. Remember, this doesn't guarantee you a seat. It merely says that you're coming.
Let us know. Let us know some
Yeah.
numbers.
hplive@gmail.com. Really important that everyone tells us if they're coming or not. So
And by the way,
Good
Jamie
number.
Lawrence will be there.
Yes,
he
he will.
be there.
Greg, you coming?
Who? Me?
Yeah, you.
Are you coming?
Oh, I don't have money,
Oh.
so no.
Maybe if you concentrated on
poor.
selling stuff on your website and then changing the layout every other day, you would have money.
Well, actually, I'm going on a rather long vacation this summer that's going to take up most
To
of it.
a layout camp.
Layout camp.
Yeah.
So like band camp.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Well, Andrew, you know that book I published?
Yes.
Yeah, it cost me more than I make on it.
oh,
So
he's got his own book
Yeah,
published.
he is. Buy it. Shadows Like Us by Greg Porter.
Yeah.
We'll put a link in the show notes. That's a good idea.
And ZailorStudios.com. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go back weekly for a brand new layout. You can see Greg hard at work on that stuff. Now let's move on to listener rebuttals. We got a lot of good ones this week. This first one comes from Kimberly of Chattanooga, Tennessee. She writes, on the last MuggleCast, you said that you cannot think of a TV show where they had a story where the story had been a dream, and two examples came to mind. One was in the 1980s Dallas had an entire series that was a dream that killed off Bobby Ewing, and the actor Patrick Duffy decided to come back to the show at the end of the season. His ex-wife walked into the bathroom and he was in the shower. It had been a dream. That must have been upsetting. Then also, another example was Newhart. Bob Newhart starred as an innkeeper in Vermont. The town had lots of crazy characters. In the last episode, you see Bob in bed, and he woke up. This girl's very good at writing. when he rolls over, his wife from his earlier show, the Bob Newhart show, was in bed with him. The entire series had been a dream. How upsetting! And
Well, okay. Well, is this about
they
us
make
saying
fun of that entire thing on Family Guy.
Is this about us saying that there hasn't been a TV series or a movie that ends in a dream?
yeah, like over a 10-year period, and then
Yeah,
it's all
it'll be a
dream.
long dream.
Whack, whack, whack.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, who would run after J.K. Rowling
Yeah.
to bring her down? Yeah.
Next email. Hi, I have a listener rebuttal to do with episode 32. You were talking about the pronunciation of Canutes. I know the Scholastic site says it's Canutes, but when Joe was reading Half-Blood Prince in Edinburgh, she pronounced it as nuts, no K. I meant to get confirmation on this, but yeah, Jamie, what's your take on it?
I think Canutes is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. I can't believe it after I after I listened to the Scholastic site, I thought there had been some kind of error. Canutes, it doesn't sound right at all. Nuts is clearly it. And Andrew, it's Edinburgh, not Edinburgh.
Oh, sorry,
I'd
Jamie.
like to make that out.
It's Edinburgh.
It's okay, don't worry, I completely forgive you.
It's Edinburgh.
I'm sorry. Well, maybe
Edinburgh.
for some reason Scholastic thinks it should be Canutes, and over in England I think it should be nuts.
No, but nuts, how can you say Canutes? It's like galleons,
Newt
No,
sounds
it's-
better, I think.
sickles, and canutes. Oh yeah, that flows really well.
Yeah. Good
yeah.
point.
Sir Ickles, yeah, and galleons.
And just like the Scholastic pronunciation guide also says Rubaeus.
I know.
Rubaeus. It's like Rubaeus.
The woman is so softly spoken, you can hardly hear her.
Canutes.
She couldn't actually get more softly spoken.
I think
Yeah,
she's a
she is.
machine.
Rubaeus.
All right.
Yeah, one of those free ones.
Well, there you go. Sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. Zanab, 15 from Milton, Ontario, Canada. Andrew. Hey, Andrew. I was actually, it says hi, but I was just wondering about the music you play during the audio comments. What is it called? I absolutely adore it for some random reason.
This is just to fan Andrew's ego, this is.
Yes,
Yeah,
it is.
that's all it is.
No, I just want to say, I added this because we get so many of these emails, believe it or not, and I'm not joking. I made it in Soundtrack. It's one layer of music with 3 different guitar riffs.
Wow.
So,
wow.
I'll be releasing it on a CD for $39.99. Shipping $30 as well. $50 to ship it to England. So if you want it, please email Andrew at sap.mugglenet.com. I'll be happy to mail you a 20-minute version, 20-minute loop.
20-minute version. Just loop it over and over.
The CD costs 1,000 canutes.
Yeah, there you go. Put that in the CNN money
Or
converter.
10
See what
nuts.
happens.
1,000 canutes or 10 nuts, okay? Whichever you prefer.
Next one comes from FJ22 of North Carolina. Hi, you guys analyzed Hagrid's comment that there weren't a witch or wizard that went bad that wasn't in Slytherin and tried to apply that to the case of Pettigrew. You have to remember, though, that no one knew Pettigrew was alive, not even Dumbledore. Granted, that was gross over-exaggeration. However, it's not the sort of comment that can be analyzed that way because Hagrid didn't have all the information on Pettigrew. He's a special case because he faked his own death rather successfully.
I just assume that that comment, there wasn't a witch or wizard that went bad that wasn't in Slytherin. I mean, obviously it means that, every single witch or wizard that went bad came from Slytherin, but does that mean that there have been some good people who have come from Slytherin? Or that every single person from Slytherin is bad?
They can't all be bad.
Yeah.
That'd be what we call... Here in America, we call it a
What are you
stereotype.
talking about, Ben?
Stereotyping.
Well, if you say that everyone who goes in Slytherin,
I'm not
is
stereotyping.
bad, that's a stereotype. It's like saying every Muslim's a terrorist.
Ben, I'm not stereotyping. I'm generalizing.
Oh, yeah.
Get it right.
No generalizing is allowed on MuggleCast. That was one of our rejected slogans, actually.
Loads of generalizing is good. Then we thought, no, it doesn't actually work.
None of these book nerds will think it's cool. All right.
Generalizing is cool.
Yeah. All right. Next rebuttal.
Let's put that on a T-shirt.
All right. The last from several people. We have found where Eric was trying to figure out where on earth Mimblewimble came from. And turns out, thanks to quite a few people who recalled that it comes from the Chamber of Secrets video game. There's a spell. Is it called Mimblewimble, or do they say Mimblewimble?
The Mimblewimble spell. That sounds terrifying. I'm going to Mimblewimble you.
We'll add that one, Tinky Winky, and all the rest of the Teletubbies.
Yeah. Lala's going to Mimblewimble you.
It's amazing how you'll hear it once and then it'll come back to you, but you can't exactly put your finger on it.
Greg asks a really good question, which I kind of wanted to talk about too. Does JKR have anything to do with the games? Does the game producers say, hey, we want something like Flipindo, we want something to flip something around, and does she write them, or what?
What is
That is the most annoying spell ever in creation. especially in the first game. Flippendo!
You had to use that spell every single time. It drove me nuts.
Yeah.
I hated the games.
The games are weak. But you know what? It's these game developers who absolutely hate Harry Potter, so they could care less.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I do know that most authors have no say in their own games, but J.K. Rowling isn't most authors. So.
Yeah. Well, it's WB that's making these video games happen, so J.K. Rowling is probably out of the loop.
J.K. Rowling.
J.K. Rowling, sorry. I don't know why I keep saying it that way, but... Anyway, moving on to the chapter-by-chapter discussion for this week, chapters 6 and 7. We continue to take your feedback and put it to use, and this is revision 3 of chapter-by-chapter. So, starting off, chapter 6, the journey from platform 9 and 3/4.
Congratulations, Andrew, you got the title right.
Excuse me while I open my book and finish this reading.
I know, you're done. Your chance is
Yeah,
up.
you've missed it.
Here, I'll be Jim Dale while waiting for Eric. Harry's last month with the Dursleys was not fun. True, Dudley was now so scared of Harry, he wouldn't stay in the same room.
Jim Dale's American.
Yeah, but...
I swear he sounds like that,
he does.
though.
Yeah, he
doesn't.
definitely does.
If you want a real British accent, do Stephen Fry, who did the British ones.
I never heard him speak before.
Yes, you have. You must have.
Well,
Oh, I heard him on the little interview with JKR, but I don't remember what his voice sounds like.
So we're introduced to a lot of new characters this chapter, and a lot of new items, particularly. We're introduced to Ron, Neville, Fred and George, Ginny, Charlie and Bill, Mrs. Weasley, of course, Crabbe and Goyle. We see more Draco and Quidditch, and we also start to see the crazy side of magic with the Bertie Bott's every flavored beans and the chocolate frogs.
I have some notes, some of my notes here.
Right.
Page 91 of the UK edition
I just
is where we first hear
UK
the
edition?
No, excuse me, of the US edition. Sorry,
All right,
of
okay.
and Molly Weasley first hear talked, packed with Muggles, of course, and then it's basically this is where we first meet the Weasleys.
Yeah.
And I just like to point out how she's already sort of you get the impression of what she is, how she is, and how she's
That
motherly.
is true. That is very true.
And I thought that might be nice to point that out.
Yeah.
Just when we first see her, be motherly. And then another personality thing that happens on this page is Fred and George. You see they start becoming jokesters, where they mention,
Yeah.
The toilet seat.
I'm
stuff,
Fred. Yeah, and that stuff like that. Well, on page 93 of the U.S. edition is something else I noticed, is where we get our first description of what Ron looks like. And it says he was tall, thin, and gangling, with freckles, big hands and feet, and a long nose. And sometimes I think we all forget that that's what Ron actually looks like because of the perception of Rupert Grint. You know, Rupert Grint's stocky, has these broad shoulders, and he's not really that much taller than Dan Radcliffe, who plays Harry. So I just thought it'd be nice to point that out, too.
Yeah.
Doesn't say anything about his hair, though, although, judging by the covers, we sort of get the gist of it.
Well, I'd like to move to page 96. Like Andrew said at the very start of the introduction to the segment, that throughout this chapter we get a nice perception of all the new characters that we're going to see. For example, like I mentioned, the Weasleys, Hermione, Neville, all of these people. And something important that we learn about Percy, who becomes very important in the future books, this happens on page 96 of the U.S. edition, where he says, "Can't stay long, Mother. I'm up front. The prefects have got 2 compartments to themselves." You know, and I think it's just it's the first demonstration we see of him being really pompous and pretty arrogant about the position he holds. And I think that there have been a lot of parallels drawn between him and Tom Riddle. And I think that this is basically starts the whole roll into the power-hungry Percy who's just after the highest position he can possibly have. Yeah. Do you guys agree with me there, or kind of silent?
Yeah. No, I think that's an interesting point. Yeah, and also the way he just says, "I can't stay long, Mother." It just seems really, really informal. Not the kind of really, really formal. It doesn't seem like the kind of way you talk to your.
To me, it sounds like he's trying too hard.
Well, I wouldn't anyway. I'm a big mummy's boy.
Yeah, it sounds like he's trying too hard to be real. Yeah. Nice and I'm this perfect kid.
Yeah, he's very pompous. That's what I wrote on my notes. I wrote pompous Percy.
And then Fred and George try to rip on him and have a little fun, and he goes, "Oh, shut up."
Yeah.
And that's really the last we see of him until they arrive at Hogwarts, as we'll see later in chapter 7, and the chapter 6.
Can I go on to? Okay, page 76 of the UK edition. I can. No. I'll just tell you what happens.
We'll find
it's where they buy all the chocolate and stuff from the lady with the trolley. Now, this is going to sound like I'm really overanalyzing stuff, and I'm sure I am, but that cost him all the stuff. He got one of everything, right, on that trolley. There was a lot of stuff there, and that cost him roughly £3.19, which is about, I don't know, $7, $6, which seems not very much for how much he bought.
Yeah.
From the thing. So I was just wondering, it seems weird that each galleon is worth about £5, so about $10, and it seems like if you wanted to buy something really, really big, it would seem difficult to pay in normal wizarding money. Like if you wanted something that cost, I don't know, £10,000, it would be an awful lot of galleons that you couldn't really keep in one vault in Gringotts. I don't know. It's true. I don't know where I'm going with this. I just thought I'd try and mention it. And also,
he probably felt like it was a lot to him because he's had so little. It doesn't say one exactly. I don't know if it does in UK actually, but in the US edition it says
something of everything. But this leads to one more point. That Snape in Half-Blood Prince we see lives in London, yeah, or he has a house in London where he stays.
Yeah.
And surely he can't. Stay in London without spending more money and going to Muggle shops and buying stuff like that. So where he gets his cash from, but
there's probably currency conversion at Gringotts, I'm sure. Just like you would go to any bank to get your currency
how
converted.
How strong is the wizarding money?
Well, I'm sure there's some. That's true. I don't know about.
Well, would Snape really need it? Do the Weasleys need it?
They can't magic everything, though. I'm sure Joe's made it clear that you can't just conjure anything you need out of thin air. You have to acquire it, and there has to be some things that you can't acquire solely in the wizarding world. If a wizard... there have to be some really, really in-tune wizards who like plasma TVs and big, stuff like that. So they have to buy it. You can't buy that from Diagon Alley, I don't think. So you must have to go to a Panasonic shop or something like that and pay with, say, that 40-inch rear projection TV, and I'll pay with 10,000 galleons. So I just wondering about...
Yeah.
Snape walking into a Best Buy.
Like a 20-inch
That's what Snape
LCD
really
monitor
wants.
with a...
Yeah.
I want to visit MuggleNet.
I mean, that was
I want to see how that.
overanalyzing, but I
Who's
just
playing me in the movies? No, but good point. Well,
something.
Who's to say he doesn't have a house elf or some other way of acquiring? Like, I can't picture Snape going among the Muggles. It just doesn't seem right, and I would imagine that he doesn't.
No,
like Muggles.
I agree. But there has to be some way of buying stuff from a Muggle world, or
eBay,
or just like conversing with Muggles. What?
eBay.
eBay.wizard.
Yes, exactly.
I've always wondered what the Wizard Wireless Network is, because it's not really described that well.
Didn't she say that wizards have some way of communicating with people that's much
better
than
the
internet?
Yeah,
but
the Wizard Wireless Network.
She probably has to think it up first before she actually talks about it.
Yeah.
She can say anything, but you gotta explain it.
Something that I noticed on page 99 of the U.S. edition is throughout the entire series, there's always this. They always draw a parallel between the killing curse and a green light, and Harry describes it. When Ron asks him what he remembers, he says, "I remember a lot of green light, but nothing else." And I thought it was interesting to point out that the killing curse is always associated with the green light, and I've never quite understood why. And coincidentally, green is also one of the house colors of Slytherin.
Mm.
Yeah. But it could be like, I mean, could you say that, I mean, if you're killed by Avada Kedavra, you can't remember anything, obviously, because you're dead. But Harry sort of came back from a near-life experience. I mean, can you liken it to, like, drowning and then being brought back to life by, the paramedics? And people who have had that say that they've gone down a tunnel, and they see all the experiences of their life. You could sort of half liken that to the green light, So, like, I don't know if Harry sees anything, but...
No. I'm under the impression that the killing curse actually shoots a green light out of the wand.
Yeah, we see that in Goblet of Fire, don't we?
Yeah.
At the end with Voldemort's wine is it green?
What type of green is it?
But I mean,
like
think about
dark, dull green, or is it neon green?
Neon
with specks of white and flowing.
No, I think it's like neon.
Sorry.
I don't know, but just like think about it as symbolism. What do you think when
sick.
you see green? Well, money for some people, but
jealousy.
Red is more.
Green's jealousy.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Page 102. There's something else that I noticed
all over
here.
The place. We're still on the train for crying out loud.
We're moving forward, at least. Okay, page 102 is where we first see the chocolate frog cards. And this may not seem that significant, but in Order of the Phoenix, Dumbledore mentions that let him do anything, but just don't take me off the chocolate frog cards. And here, Ron says, chocolate frogs have cards inside them, to collect famous witches and wizards. And he tells how he has 500 himself. And what do you think the significance of being on the chocolate frog card is? And how do you actually earn the position to be on a chocolate frog card? What do you guys think?
Isn't it just, famous?
Isn't it just like being famous? Sorry. It's just like, But when, we can bring this back to when I can't remember. I think it was Bill said that Dumbledore didn't mind what they did to him as long as they didn't take him off the Chocolate Frogs cards. Everyone thought that was a joke, but then I read that it could be because it's a way of communicating with people. But
didn't we discuss a theory on that or something?
I think we did, but I don't know. I think it's just that he likes being on the Chocolate Frogs cards. It's a kind of recognition of him, I think, because Merlin's on there. Famous
type of thing. On there. And we have to move on here since we sort of covered that. On page 102 to 103 is where they actually look at a chocolate frog card of Dumbledore, and it says that he's particularly famous for his defeat of the Dark Wizard Grindelwald in 1945. I think we might have talked about Grindelwald before.
We shouldn't get into
this. But
do
you think it's any coincidence that it happened in 1945, and that's when the end of World War II was? But I think J.K. Rowling got asked a question of whether sometimes the Wizarding Wars coincide with the Muggle Wars, and I think she said they do, to an extent. So.
I think so. I mean, at the beginning of Half-Blood Prince, what was everyone thinking about? Well,
war.
No.
Having a wank?
No, I don't know. It just brought back to me. It felt like I'm sure this isn't true. I just think J.K. Rowling was sort of almost making a political statement, because the only thing I could think about was the whole war thing going on right now.
Yeah.
And this book just happens to come out in the first chapter or so is covering the war. It's you make a good point.
Who could Grindelwald be though? Because I mean, it's been like visited in the past that the Nazis have some kind of magic element, like in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Indiana Jones and the other one,
Lost Ark.
What's the other one?
Yeah.
Not the Temple of Doom. Yeah. Ark of the Covenant one. So I don't know if that's it's a kind of going down that route, or it's just like Grindelwald was a Nazi sympathizer and it was like that. I mean, and he isn't automatically on the German side. It's just that
why else would Dumbledore
that
defeat
seems
him?
Like some kind of conclusion. Yeah. Well, the Germans weren't the only Axis powers in World War II.
Oh, and another thing that I'd like to bring up about Grindelwald is it says that he has been defeated, but does that truly mean Does that truly mean he's
killed,
gone?
yeah.
Because take for example Voldemort. Everyone said that he was defeated by Harry Potter, but does that mean that Grindelwald is gone? Voldemort came back, so is it possible for Grindelwald to experience the same thing?
I read an extremely interesting theory once that Grindelwald was really the big Dark Lord, and that Voldemort was just one other person. But I don't know if that's true, and that seems a little far fetched since she's only got one more book. And it'll be hard to explain all that in it. But I don't know. I mean, I think that's pure speculation.
Would we want to see this guy coming back? Like
Yeah.
you were just asking?
I think it would cause too much trouble because think about all the loose ends she already has to tie up now,
Yeah.
and how much that would add to it, and how big of a problem it would cause.
Mm-hmm.
But it could be that Voldemort's only scared of Dumbledore because he defeated Grindelwald, maybe.
And for all we know, defeated
or something
they
like
think,
that. Yeah, he
a lot of
proved
people
himself.
think that Harry actually defeated Voldemort, as in he killed him, and that was a lot of the perception. But then there was always the skeptics who thought, no, that's not true. But I think we need to move on before we're on this.
Hold on. I mean, let me just say one more thing. If Dumbledore is being recognized for defeating this guy, and according to this chocolate card, it's a dark wizard, he must be a huge dark wizard.
Yeah,
I don't think we
you don't
mentioned
hear that
it's a
you
dark
don't hear
wizard.
him being as talked about as much as Voldemort.
Maybe he's more unspeakable.
because he's being...
Or they just don't want to because of something that happened.
It'd be like us being afraid of saying Hitler's name because he might come back, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Well,
but then again, we know there's no way to resurrect the dead. But then,
and even so, Hitler's not something that comes up in conversation very often in school or anything, so it would only come up in school, I mean. So it's not something you just go to your friends and talk about, like, hey, Hitler. And so maybe Grindelwald's just the same way. It's just long gone. Nobody really thinks about it much anymore.
That's true.
I don't know.
Because it'd have to be the people's grandparents, the students at Hogwarts, their grandparents who were dealing with Hitler.
Yeah.
I mean, not Hitler, but Grindelwald, not their parents like it is now, because the aura still lingers. Page 105 is where we get our description of Hermione, and here it says, she had a bossy sort of voice, lots of bushy brown hair, and rather large front teeth. And what I'd like to bring up here is that this sort of, it gives us the whole perception of Hermione from the start of the series.
Yeah.
And you see her going around, bossing everybody around, sort of telling Ron, that's not a real spell, that type of stuff. And I think that it shows us how uptight she was at the beginning, and then as the series progresses, we see how she starts to loosen up. And I'm sure we'll get into that later on in other chapters in future books, but I just think it's interesting to point out how uptight she is to start the series, and how she, I've memorized all the coursework front to back and all that stuff.
Can I go somewhere from that as well? I was going to say that after Ron tries the spell on Scabbers, he says afterwards that George gave him the spell, or was it Fred, and that he knew it was a dud. But the reason, I don't know, that the reason the spell didn't work was because Scabbers wasn't a rat. I read that somewhere, and I think that could explain it. because it was a spell to turn a rat yellow, and everyone thinks it didn't work because it wasn't a proper spell, but it could be that it didn't work because Scabbers
and
wasn't
another
actually
thing
a
that I
rat.
think we have to pay attention to as we're reading, something that may become an important part of the future books, is when J.K. Rowling suddenly makes it clear that Scabbers is in the room, or that Scabbers is somewhere nearby. And so any conversation they have is actually being overheard by Peter Pettigrew, which could become significant in the future. So I think it's important for us to remember, oh, geez, Scabbers is listening to this. This could be very valuable to Voldemort's cause.
Yeah.
Well, he's certainly going to remember these things.
He was lying in waiting, so he had to get information.
See, Peter Pettigrew is sort of like Slughorn, except in a different type of way. You know how Slughorn wants to associate himself with the rich and the famous? Pettigrew is the same exact way, where he wants to be involved with powerful people like Voldemort, or whoever can offer him the best. And he's very selfish. It's about what's in it for him, and how he can achieve that in the quickest manner possible.
But
I've got 2 points.
Well, I just want to say that Ben, you were saying Hermione's developed. A lot of characters are developed. We can get the gist of what they'll be like throughout the entire series, although we don't know it. I mean, Ron already he's looking kind of unsure of himself. Neville, he loses his rat already, so we already know that he's forgetful. Fred and George, we see them joke around. Ginny, we don't really see much, but has an interest in Harry a little bit, just wanting to know him.
She says, "Can I go see him? Can I go see him?"
Draco's a jerk. We already know that. Crabbe and Goyle, although we're not up to that point yet, we see that they're right up Draco's butt.
There's some interesting stuff about
Draco. So many characters are developed in just this one chapter, and by book 7, we'll be looking back at this book and saying, "Why didn't I notice that?" Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The stuff about Malfoy, though.
Let's keep moving. Let's get to there.
I had a kind of what if question. What if Harry had taken his hand there, Malfoy's hand, and shook his hand? What would the do you think the entire series would be different, or do you think he'd still have realised that he didn't like him and that the handshake wouldn't really have meant anything? And from
finish. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. And from there, after he doesn't shake his hand, he starts off by saying stuff about, but if Harry isn't careful, he'll go the same way as his parents. Now that just sounds like sort of an idle threat, that because he's annoyed that he didn't shake his hand, he doesn't want to be friends with him. But if you read into that, it's actually quite interesting. It's stuff about that they didn't know what was good for them and stuff like that. And I only reread this about 2 hours ago, so I'm still trying to see if that relates to any episodes in the chronology.
Well, I think the handshake, if Harry would have shaken Draco's hand, that whole scene would have been different. But I think by the time they got to the school and he had learned more about Draco, he would have wished he took that back.
Yeah. He'd been the same, yeah.
It wouldn't have been
I agree on that. But I've got the paragraph now, and it says, "I'd be careful if I were you, Potter," he said slowly. "Unless you're a bit politer, you'll go the same way as your parents. They didn't know
Page
what was
109
good for them
US
either.
edition.
You hang around with riffraff like the Weasleys and the Hagrid, and it'll rub off on you." It's just like they didn't know what was good for them either. I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of...
I can't think of what that relates to, but I think there's more to it than meets the eye.
Okay, and I hate to move back, especially as we're progressing forward, but on page 106...
Oh, God.
Hermione comes into the train car, and she says, "Do either of you know what house you'll be in? I've been asking around, and I hope I'm in Gryffindor." Okay, we talked about this on the Hermione show, where we analyzed Hermione, but why do you think that she wanted to be in Gryffindor? Just because it's the house Dumbledore was in? Or why don't you think she's a Ravenclaw? Do you think there's something in the future that Hermione is going to display that proves to us that she really does belong in Gryffindor, some type of courageous act?
Well, I think Hermione.
Yeah.
I think Hermione has already been courageous, not in the sense of a true Gryffindor,
Yeah,
but
definitely.
she's helped Harry try to defeat Voldemort, which not every kid in that school would particularly want to get involved with, because they could very well be
I
harmed
guess
too.
you're right.
So,
She hasn't proven herself
Right,
totally yet, though. Because I think it's in book 5, after she does a protein thingamabob charm on the gold galleons, so that when Harry changes his, everyone else's change as well. was it Terry Boot who asked why she wasn't in Ravenclaw because the charm is new standard? She says that she doesn't know, and I think that can be a kind of marker to show that she's going to have to do something extremely courageous and brave to prove that she should have been in Gryffindor. Maybe it's like sacrificing herself to save Harry. Oh my God,
That's true.
Bad to think about.
Yeah,
but I don't know. It could be it.
Okay, moving on here to page 109, where we see Scabbers again in the scene, and here he says, Joe writes, Scabbers the rat was hanging off his finger, sharp little teeth sunk in deep into Goyle's knuckle. This is when Goyle reaches for the candy and trying to steal it from Harry and Ron. But something I'd like to point out here is that when you think about it, when you finally realize that all along was Peter Pettigrew, and how he was sort of, he had a low self-esteem, and how he was sort of picked on in school too, that you would assume that maybe it was him sort of, stepping up for the little guys for once. Yeah. Before,
well,
I don't know, I found that interesting.
You have to wonder how Lucius Malfoy had treated him in school.
Yeah, definitely.
I think doesn't about conclude chapter 6?
I've got one last point.
Yeah.
One last point.
I didn't feel like we were making much progress. Go ahead, Jamie.
Why is it only the first years that go by boat, and why do they need to go by boat? Why can't they just have a few more thestrals?
Maybe it's sort of initiation type thing. Not really initiation, but orientation. Freshman orientation, like they have at some high schools, where as they go across the boat, they can see the castle,
right?
Get the real experience.
And they're moving slow. They get a nice long look at the school and where they're going to be for the next 7 years.
I'd rather go up in the invisible horse-drawn carriages, because across the lake they can fall in, as Dennis Creevy did. They can bump their heads, as when Hagrid says, mind your heads, and I don't know.
Well, you got to keep them
scared.
You're
right. Perhaps it's just treat them mean.
I think boats are just a great way of Joe. Really, now that I think about it, now that we're all thinking about it, I just think that was a great way to introduce the kids. It's slow.
Yeah.
It's starting them off slow, and they get a nice long look. Because when you're nervous, you don't want to be rushed into that school. At least they have time. I mean, who knows how long that boat ride takes? Probably 5-10 minutes.
But were the people who came from wizarding families who were used to, magic and all that kind of stuff, their parents must have told them stories of Hogwarts, so I just don't think they were as nervous as Harry, obviously. But I'd have liked to have seen inside the mind of the other, people as well, just to see how they were feeling there.
Okay, this chapter opens with the sorting hat, the sorting ceremony that we hear about every year.
Yeah.
Almost every year.
And this is where we finally, something that I liked at the beginning of this chapter, is where we get introduced to the ghosts.
Okay, sorry, thank you. First of all, on page 86
please.
of the UK edition, I was wondering what had Peeves done wrong that made all of the ghosts talk about, getting rid of him. Because
were they?
It's probably the same, the usual stuff that he does.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought.
Are they referencing a specific?
But also, what powers do the ghosts have? I mean, if they say we want to get rid of Peeves and Dumbledore doesn't want to get rid of Peeves, I'd have thought that Dumbledore's has more power than them, but I don't know.
Well, the Bloody Baron has the ultimate power, doesn't he?
He doesn't have power over him. He has personal power. He can make him do things, but I don't know if he can banish him.
Right, but Peeves has to hold some significance to the castle, doesn't he? Since Dumbledore
I agree.
has yet to banish
there's more to
him.
him than meets the eye. But going on from there, how do ghosts become house ghosts?
Well, it's sort of probably the same way that someone becomes the head of house, wouldn't you think? There's probably some requirements, like you had to be a member of the house during your day, but
you have to be dead as well.
Right. But you have to be dead, and you have to be a ghost. The thing is how do they ever change house ghosts?
Yeah, that's what I was going to
say. Same house ghost from all.
So I was going to say maybe there's no rules at all. They just 4 of them.
Yeah. They happened to die around the same time, and they all became ghosts, and that was it.
Yeah.
Greg raises an interesting point that Peeves isn't even a ghost. He's a poltergeist. I don't know if that just means that poltergeists are intrinsically evil or they're just naughty, but it is interesting to see that Peeves is sort of generally all naughty, but the other ghosts are sort of generally logical, rational, and good. But
I see Peeves sort of as a young ghost. He's got so much energy in him.
yeah, he does. Yeah, definitely.
He's like the kid who died young, and they felt bad for him, so they were like,
yeah.
"Well, you can stay around for a few more 100 years."
Oh, and another thing about Nick is, what did he do to get chopped in the head with an axe for 500 times or whatever?
I don't know. Should we move on? Oh, can I go?
All right, so moving along
To the Sorting Hat song, I was going to say that about 3/4 of the way down.
Oh, well, you're really jumping
yeah,
ahead.
I know, but we didn't have
That's
much. I mean,
fine.
I can wait if you want, but I was
Yeah,
going to
you're
say
right. No, there's not much happening here, really.
about 3/4 of the way down, it says, "There's nothing hidden in your head the Sorting Hat can't see." So, can it be
That's
like a
creepy.
rudimentary form of Veritaserum? Like, if you put it on your head, if you put it on Barty Crouch's head, would it tell you everything? Like, is it just like an interface that shows you whatever the person's thinking? Can it act like that?
Well, couldn't it be similar to Legimens or
Sorry, was that?
Aquamancy rather?
Yeah, that's interesting. So,
Hmm.
yeah, but if you ask somebody a question, they can't help but think about what you've asked. You know, like they can't just block it all out. So, I mean, you could sort of ask somebody a question, and then the Sorting Hat could just suck out what they were thinking at the time. I mean, I don't know. It's just an idea.
Maybe there's a pact of confidentiality. Maybe the spell that the Sorting Hat on it doesn't allow it to divulge that information.
The Sorting Hat signed the Official Secrets Act.
No, just when the founders put a spell on there, maybe when they enchanted it, maybe they made it so it won't be able to divulge information.
Okay, so moving on to the Sorting Hat ceremony. So, we see a few people. Susan Bones hits Hufflepuff. Terry Boot hits Ravenclaw. Good old Millicent Bulstrode becomes Slytherin. Then we get up to Hermione. She gets in Gryffindor. All right. Neville gets into Gryffindor. Malfoy gets into Slytherin. Then we get to Harry Potter, and last thing Harry sees is the hat. The last thing Harry saw before the hat dropped over his eyes was the hall full of people craning to get a good look at this guy. And then the Sorting Hat starts to figure out which house he belongs in, and he doesn't make up his decision, but then Harry starts getting worried because he's really pondering over this, and then Harry starts going, not Slytherin. But your first impression is Harry says not Slytherin, and then Sorting Hat says not Slytherin? Alright, cool. You're in Gryffindor. Why? Was this decision based off of just what Harry said, or was the Sorting Hat just trying to mess with him?
But as Dumbledore has said several times throughout the series, it's not something that makes us who we are. It's our choices.
We wish we had more time to cover this, but
But
we don't right now. This is a good main discussion.
Jamie, do you have something to add finally, though?
I was just going to say that there are loads of online people who are really, really nice people who would like to be in, but aren't bad. I mean, obviously you compare, since these are people in the real world, who are based off the books, but there are people like that. I mean, I think it would be interesting to be in Slytherin.
Okay, so then later during the feast, Harry gets a sharp pain from Quirrell, which is another major foreshadowing. I mean, just by reading the first few chapters, you get the gist of the whole book and half of the series.
Yeah. And the final thing I think we need to mention about this chapter is the ending.
Yes.
Right, Andrew?
Harry goes to bed, and he gets a dream where Professor Quirrell is in it. He's wearing Professor Quirrell's turban, and then Quirrell transforms into Malfoy.
Yeah,
now,
that could be it.
And we see that green light again. So, what is this? This is the beginning of Harry's pain.
Well, I think it's foreshadowing, truly. Because when I first read the series, I sort of breezed over that. But then when I came back through for a second time, and you reread that part, you think, "Oh, geez, this is heavy foreshadowing to what's going to happen at the end."
Big thing.
It talks about the turban, saying that it's his destiny and all these things, and how the other thing is that what's significant about the turban is Lord Voldemort's underneath there.
All right, so that wraps up this week's chapter-by-chapter discussion. As we keep repeating, we are still tweaking it, and we decided that we are going to start doing 1 chapter a week. 2 if there's not a lot in them, but especially now, there's a ton of stuff we keep wanting to talk about. So now moving on to the general voicemail questions. We got a few of them for you this week. First, let's take it to Isaac from Los Angeles.
Hey, this is Isaac from LA, and it says in the first book, and you mentioned it in MuggleCast 32, that Harry's father was head boy. How in the world is this possible if he got detentions like every other week with Sirius? Thanks, bye.
Well, there's no requirement that to be head boy, you can't get any detentions, right? And even then, you have enough time.
It's true.
Next voicemail.
Yeah. And also, but also, head boy isn't only about, behaving well in terms of, keeping within school rules. There's nothing to say that schools aren't wrong quite a lot of the time. So you also need a strong character that isn't prepared to do the right thing. That is always prepared to do the right thing, who's prepared to stand up for people, all that kind of thing. So it's all about the sort of, that kind of thing for head boy. It isn't only about detentions. Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to the next voicemail. Morgan from Arizona.
Hi, this is Morgan from Scottsdale, Arizona, and I was wondering, in Book 1, when Miss Fig broke her leg, Uncle Vernon said, "Why don't we phone Marge?" And Petunia said, "Don't be silly, Vernon, she hates the boy." That implies that she's near enough for her to come over and babysit Harry. But in the third book, she's far away enough to have to stay over at their house for a few days to have dinner. Does that mean she moved, or is this just a mistake? Thanks. Bye. Love the show.
People stay over for all sorts of reasons, though. She could have had too much to drink, or something like that. So,
wait a sec. I don't think that implies that she's near enough for her to come over and babysit Harry. Basically, she could be on the way towards the zoo. So if the zoo's like 45 minutes away, and Marge is 40 minutes away, and just up the highway from the zoo, they could just quick drop off Harry at Marge's real quick. Great question, though. Next one comes from Eric of Los Angeles.
Hey, MuggleCast. This is Eric from Los Angeles. I'm one of your old listeners. I'm an oldie. I'm actually listening to the audiobooks while I'm listening to your show, while you're going through the chapters. I think it's great. But I have a comment about the secrecy of the world, because how many kids have Muggle parents and they're going to Hogwarts? So those Muggle parents have to know, and do they tell their friends and family, oh yeah, my kid is going to Hogwarts, or is there some kind of secrecy agreement that they have to sign from Hogwarts? Like, how do they keep those people away from knowing about that particular world? Because how many of the kids at Hogwarts have Muggle parents? But anyway, great show. I love listening to your show. Keep up the good work. Talk to you soon. Bye.
No reason for an agreement. We've already read that, or we already discussed, I can't remember which one it is, that there is some knowledge out there. The knowledge being some Muggles do know that wizards and witches exist just through family, through direct family members being wizards, etc., etc. All right, so keeping it moving along here, next up is Jamie's British joke of the day. Jamie, it's been so long. I hope your joke keeps me in tears.
The first one, and I have somebody from the forums, the fan forums, to thank for this. It is RM with a smiley face after their name. I don't know how you can pronounce that, but yeah, RM with a smiley face. And it was, why did the farmer win a Nobel Prize? Because he was outstanding in his field. And the other one you got?
Well, hold on, wait a second. Well, no, go ahead.
Sorry?
Just do it now.
Okay, it was going to be, I dreamt last night that I'd written Lord of the Rings, but when I woke up, I realised I was just Tolkien in my sleep.
Heard that before.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
That's a good one. Thank you, Jamie. Now it's time for the MuggleCast heartwarming story of the week. This comes from Angela Gardner, 30, of Stockport, England. Have your tissues at the ready, ladies and gentlemen. Angela writes, "Hi, just thought I'd drop you a line. I'm currently off working now and expecting my first baby, and I now have plenty of time to listen to your podcast episodes. Just been listening to episode 30, and it's funny in the fact that my baby has really been active while listening to you all. It's like she, don't know the sex of the baby yet, has their own opinions on Harry Potter and was more active more times than others. I will keep monitoring movement while listening to you all, and maybe when baby arrives, you might serve as being able to soothe the baby when it gets grumpy. Keep up the good work. Love Angel and Bump, and now MuggleCast is officially...
It's a pacifier. MuggleCast.
Yeah, MuggleCast is officially a certified
pacifier.
Baby soother. Yeah. MuggleCast, we soothe babies. So...
Name your baby Ben. Name your baby Carl Benjamin.
So thank you, Angela from Stockport, England, for your story, and best of luck with your child in the next 12 weeks. That does wrap up MuggleCast 33. We thank everyone for listening. So next week we will be talking about Chapter 8 of Sorcerer's Stone. So that does it for us. Once again, I'm Andrew Sims.
I am Ben Shane.
I'm Jamie Lawrence.
I'm Greg.
I'm Greg Porter.
I'm Greg Porter. Go to my website.
Zaylor Studios.
No shame.
ZaylorStudios.com, and wrote some crazy book that I hear is now available at your local library. We will see everyone next week for MuggleCast episode 34. Good night, everyone.
Bye.
And for 2 weeks only, there's a character in all of us, and now you can share your unique character with the world at showusyourcharacter.com. Join now and begin uploading your videos, photos, and profile. You can share a hidden talent, show off your celebrity impersonation, or give the Show Us Your Character community a glimpse into your life. Chat and interact with thousands of other members and get to know some of the characters of the United States. You've got what it takes to be a star. Enter the 2006 Show Us Your Character contest to find out if you're America's most unique character, and you can win a chance to be featured on the computer screen, the TV screen, and even the big screen. Enter now at showusyourcharacter.com.
Hey MuggleCast, my name's Katie and I'm from outside of Atlanta, but I'm in Savannah now and I listen to MuggleCast all the way here and it helps me keep my mind off of getting car sick. Thank you so much.
Hi MuggleCast, this is Michelle from Wheaton. I just want to say I love you guys, and I'm sitting in lunch at school and I just decided to call you because you're my favorite. Okay, thanks for being so great. Bye. Hi, this is Casey from Ontario, Canada, and I just wanted to say MuggleCast rocks, and Andrew's my idol. Woo! Hey, it's Amanda Martin from New Jersey. I just want to say that I love MuggleCast. It's my favorite podcast ever. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Streaming only on Peacock.
It's only the first day of school, and one of these four made it my last.
5 enter detention. Jesus.
I think he's breathing.
I want to help.
I'm calling 911.
4 come out alive.
Simon's dead.
They think one of us did it.
Based on the #1 New York Times bestseller.
What is a secret worth killing for?
Without Simon, you get to be valedictorian.
I'm not the perfect girl you think I am.
And you've never done a criminal thing in your life?
One of Us is Lying. A brand new series streaming only on Peacock.